So Tales of Halloween came out in 2015, and let's see, it was released in October. I know, what a coincidence. But it was, really pumped up. I read about this movie in magazines. I saw trailers online, and I mean, everything hinted at that this was going to be a classic in the making. Before I get into my critiques of everything, I just want to break the movie down a little bit, give you an idea about what was happening in it, and then we'll start to pick away at the little things. So, Tales from Halloween is 10 short films that all take place on Halloween night in the same town, and occasionally they kind of blend together, have the same characters or something popping up here and there in them. Most of it's tied together by the narration of a disc jockey who's doing a show that night. So, which is kind of a cool idea because there's 10 of these things. And that's kind of tough to try to find some cohesive bonds between everything. So I like the idea that it was like we got this radio on, and then there's somebody talking to the people who are either partying or trick-or-treating. Kind of cool. The first movie is Sweet Tooth, and it's about a babysitter, and she invites her boyfriend over, and then this kid that she's watching is there, and then they decide to tell him the scary story, and the kid takes off to bed, and he's kind of freaked out about it or whatever. But anyways, the story is about a monster who comes around and eats candy, even if it's already been eaten. Yes, yes, gross. And the babysitter and her boyfriend end up swiping the kid's candy, and then you can imagine what happens. And I mean, I like it. It's the basic idea of like a Tales from the Crypt kind of thing, where there's like people doing something wrong, and then they get it. Maybe not how they should, but they get it in the end. So anyways, okay, the next film we have is The Night Billy Raised Hell, and it's about a kid who gets tricked into vandalizing a house of a guy who they say never puts out Halloween decorations. But, to bring up what I just brought up about Tales from the Crypt, the inside of his house looked like the Crypt Keeper's mansion. So, anyways, the kid gets caught, busted, and then the guy who owns the house says, okay, well, tonight, shit's hitting the fan. So Billy gets to run around, play an awful lot of tricks, and this one has one of those clever twist endings that I really didn't see coming. Liked it. You will like it as well. The following movie is Trick, and it's about a group of friends who are all hanging around and watching a scary movie on Halloween, passing out candy. They end up getting terrorized by a set of trick-or-treaters, and I mean, really messed with. And again, this is one of those ones where you're kind of like, why is this going on? And that's something that I thought the movie did really well. They kind of build up that uh, the question of like, why is this even happening? And then it delivers, so it's cool. Okay, and then there's The Weak and the Wicked, and this is about an angry teenager who decides to raise a demon in order to deal with some bullies who've been screwing with him, and apparently been screwing with him for a very long time. This is one where I felt that the creature effects were excellent in, and a lot of people were complaining about some campy element of this or whatever. I'm like, what did you expect? Of course it's going to have a campy element. And actually, that's why I watched the damn movie in the first place. So, on to the next one. The Grim Grinning Ghost, which is about a woman who's being haunted by a specter from a story that she was told on Halloween night. It's an okay one. Let's go on to the next. Then we have Ding Dong, which is about a guy and his wife who is kind of a crazy bitch who's trying to lure kids into their house, mainly into the kitchen to inspect the oven. So it's got a Hansel and Gretel sort of feel to it, but it's a completely different take on it, and it's more of a theme that runs through it than anything else. So this one I thought was kind of gruesome and twisted, but it also kind of kept you questioning as to wonder what exactly is happening. So very cool. So then we have This Means War. And it's about a guy who's setting up his Halloween decorations, which, I mean, if I have to, like, set it to a movie or something like that, I would say that it's more of, like, the Hammer films. And then a neighbor across the street, he starts to set up his Halloween decorations, and they're more like slasher gorehouse kind of shit, you know, like really gross stuff, and then he's playing like a thrash band or something like that in the background. So, you know, people are partying out in the front yard, and he's just trying, the neighbor across the street with like the Hammer horror kind of setup is trying to just deliver some regular scares. Well, an altercation ensues, and we find out that both of them seem to have some severe anger issues. Oh, and up next, probably my favorite one, other than, well, there's a few of them that I like. Anyways, uh, one of my favorites, though, is up next, Friday the 31st. So it's set up like it's going to be a slasher film, and you're going, okay, that's cool. Let's have a staple of the genre in here. Um, but everything changes halfway through it, and I really don't want to spoil anything. All I want to say is that I never expected what was going to happen in this, so I highly advise, if you don't watch any other short in this one, you should watch this, at least for the humor and, like, especially just the gory, crazy element of it. I mean, somebody got way out of the box on this one. I loved it. And also, this one has a few homages. Voorhees' mom's head is in there, makes an appearance. So, pretty fucking sweet. And then we have the last two. The Ransom of Rusty Rex, which offers a cameo from John Landis, who's in, I mean, fucking all sorts of stuff, you know. And if you know who he is, I don't need to go into it. But anyways, the short is about a kidnapping that's gone way wrong, and not because of poor planning. So I thought it was one of the more funny ones. Again, to bring up, like, I keep bringing up Tales from the Crypt, but you know, like, just because the first couple seasons of that show, everything had such a weird twist on everything. You know, people doing bad things and bad things happen to them, which is the current theme that runs through this film, you know, Tales of Halloween. So, um, I really liked that one. That was really fun. And then we go to the last one, The Bad Seed. It's about a genetically engineered pumpkin that is very hungry and wants to eat everything. Mainly everybody. So, you know, all in all, I just have to say these are some really cool shorts. They're really cool ideas. Now, let's get to my critiques of everything. So, I watched a lot of reviews for this film before I decided to put this one up, and most people agree that, like, the production is excellent, because every one of these shorts, it seems like you almost had the same crew working on it or something. And I mean, I don't know if they did. I didn't read that far into it. Every single set was very similar, and that's a good thing, because it tied everything in, made you feel like it was the same town, made you feel like it was the same night on the same moon. I liked the campy elements of it. You know, like if somebody's walking around, there's like blue shining up from the ground or some shit. You know, when the fuck does blue shine up from the ground unless it's like swamp gas in Louisiana or whatever? That's something that people complain about, and like I said before, I like campy elements. I like campiness. It's fun. That's the whole point. It's supposed to be just fun. And I think it totally hit its mark with that, with the production, with the set design, also with the creature effects and stuff. I mean, they made some really cool stuff, and it's not like totally unbelievable, but it still has that element where you're like, okay, you know, that's like a mask or something, but it's a damn good one. And I really enjoyed that aspect of it, because for me, that brings it to this element of like it trying to be fun and not like completely dead serious or something, you know, like a Saw movie or whatever, the first Saw movie, where, you know, everything is very realistic, and even though it's far-fetched, it's still presented as real. So another thing that I really enjoyed about this is something I mentioned right at the beginning. There were cameos from actors. Now, there's some that have been mentioned in other reviews that I'm like, okay, yeah, right on board with those. Um, you know, but there's some I feel that people missed that, I don't know, just because I've seen a shitload of movies, I recognize some people that maybe didn't get brought up in other reviews. First off, we're going to start with, I have my list, so I'm going to read it. There's Barry Bostwick. He's from Rocky Horror and tons of like theater stuff. You know, he's Brad Majors. Then we have, I'm going to screw his name up. Kill Gelchrist. The guy from It Follows. And it's kind of a funny story. We have Adrienne Barbeau, I think you pronounced her name. She was from Creepshow, I think, Swamp Thing, and then also Escape from New York, bunch of other stuff too. She was the disc jockey that I talked about that's doing kind of a narration throughout the film. Then, oh, and a person that you might have missed is one of my favorite actors from the 80s, Robert Rusler. He was in Nightmare on Elm Street Part 2. He was in one of my all-time favorite like cult movies. For me, it's one of my favorite movies just because I watched it when I was young and it's one of those nostalgia things. The movie Thrashin' also stars Josh Brolin before he got all like no country for old men. But anyways, he was in that Nightmare on Elm Street Part 2, Weird Science, Thrashing. You know, he was in a bunch of movies in the 80s. When the babysitter is telling this tale of Sweet Tooth, Robert Rusler is the dad in the story. So, I mean, I just barely caught it. And I was like, hey, I know that guy. Sweet, you know. What else do we have? Oh, shit. In Trick, I think it's the third one. I saw Trent. This is another guy. I'm probably gonna screw his name up or something. Trent Haga, and he was in Terror Firmer, the Troma movie. Um, and then he also was the guy who was a contributing author of Lloyd Kaufman's book, Make Your Own Damn Movie. Adam Green makes an appearance as a cop in one of the later. I think he's in Bad Seed. He might be in it before then, but anyways, if you're watching this, you know who Adam Green is. Anyways, like I said before, John Landis shows up in it, which I always like it when that guy shows up and shit. I never know where he's going to appear, but he really has an appreciation for like campy cinema, underground cinema, and stuff like that. And while he's also doing, you know, major motion pictures. So I think that's awesome. You know, high five, Mr. Landis. So yeah, there's a lot of cool people. There's also a ton of other actors who show up in this. These are just a few that I decided to bring up because they're the ones that I liked the most, and a couple that I thought weren't mentioned that should have been. My biggest gripe about it is the storytelling, though. I mean, I thought everything else was good, but some of these shorts started out, and I'm like, okay, what's going on? And then they get fucking crazy really fast, and it doesn't leave me enough time to build up. But I thought maybe because of the idea that there's going to be 10 stories going on here, they really had to try to cut it down. So I can kind of forgive that. But then in the stories, now here's something that kind of bugged me. The editing and the camera work. I felt like they could have made them a little bit more violent, especially because of the subject matter. Whereas some of them, I thought, like, there's a scene where there's these, like, trick-or-treaters, they're, like, killing somebody, and, you know, I thought that there could have been a few different maybe camera angles to emphasize the violence going on when the camera just kind of backed up. So in some of them, I just felt like, they were like, okay, well, this works. It felt like an art project that someone made like the night before and turned in. Not that it was terrible. Like I told you, the set design stuff was good. Don't hold that against me. But I just felt like the camera work and the editing could have emphasized a bit more of the story. You think so? If you don't think so, let me know. You know, I'd like to know what other people thought about that idea. Maybe the films could have had more impact if they were edited differently. But that being said, you know, I really enjoyed this. This is a movie, it's one of those films for people who are a connoisseur of this genre. If you like it, regardless what you think of the way they were made, or regardless of whatever your criticisms are of it, you're gonna enjoy this film. I really hope the October Society does this kind of thing every year. I don't believe this is for your casual horror connoisseur. You might find it fun if you watched it at a party or something like that, but I really think that for people who are true hardcore fans, this is always going to be one that we're going to put on Halloween if you're not watching Halloween already. Let me know what you liked and what you didn't like, and we'll see you on the next one.